Welcome to the Clark Township Planning Board meeting, Thursday, December 5th, 2024. In compliance with the Open Public Meetings Act, Chapter 231, PL 1975, adequate notice of this meeting has been provided by mailing the annual schedule of meetings to the Star Ledger, Union County Local Source, Union County Hawk, and Tappan to Clark, by posting such annual meeting schedule on the bulletin board in Town Hall reserved for such announcements, and by the proper filing of said notice with the Township Clerk. Formal action may be taken at this meeting. This meeting is a judicial proceeding. Any questions or comments must be limited to issues that are relevant to what the board may legally consider in reaching a decision, and decorum appropriate to a judicial hearing must always be maintained. Take attendance. Mayor Bonacorso. Mr. Ulrich.
Here.
Councilman Manetti.
Here.
Mr. Koch. Mr. Triola.
Here.
Mr. Altman. Mr. Jacobson.
Here.
Mr. Steinberg. Mr. Brucato.
Here.
Mr. Orancio.
Here.
Mr. Cruz.
Here.
Mr. O'Connor. Mr. Ricky. Here. Okay, we'll stand for the Pledge of Allegiance.
I hope everyone had a chance to read the minutes of the last meeting. As such, any questions or comments? Seeing none, I'd like a motion to approve the minutes. Thank you, Mayor. Second?
Second.
Thank you. Joe. Correspondence. All correspondence is available to the public at Town Hall. They can view it at their leisure. As such, I'd like a motion to dispense with the reading of the correspondence. Thank you, Mike. Second?
Second.
Thank you. Okay, referral of ordinance 2024-15, an ordinance amending and restating Chapter 195 Land Use and Development Ordinance of the Codes of the Township of Clark for a master plan inconsistency review. Mr. Paul Recchio, our township planner, will present this to us.
Sure. Better if I speak up here?
I think so.
Good evening, everyone. I was asked to address the recent ordinance introduction. Just a matter of business. The board should have received several items in your packets. A notice of first reading of ordinance itself, 2415. Associated with that, with the introduced ordinance, you should have received Exhibit A, which concerns the full proposed version of the ordinance. Exhibit B, which shows a red line version that shows the specific changes, as well as Exhibit C, which has attached a new zoning map for the township. You should have also received a summary of the changes to the ordinance, a copy of the township's most recent 2023 master plan reexamination, and you also should have received a draft resolution if the board finds that this is indeed, there are no inconsistencies with the municipal master plan. Again, I know the board has done this before. I know I'm on the record, so I'll very briefly just discuss why we're really here this evening. When any ordinance or land development ordinance is introduced by council, it is referred to the planning board. Number one, for the planning board to make a determination whether there are any inconsistencies with the municipal master plan. So realistically, what the statute wants to find is that the ordinance is designed to effectuate a master plan, but it's your responsibility to identify any inconsistencies, and also if there's anything else that you would like to state to the township council as part of this process. And just a little bit of maybe a quick step back of how we got here. I'm still relatively new in town as a township planner. When I was brought on board, the town was already working to update its zoning ordinance, and ultimately there was a committee that was formed It was the township administrator, township engineer, planning board attorney, township attorney, the former township planner, and myself. And part of the process was, first and foremost, is that the town zoning ordinance or land development ordinance wasn't updated for a period of time. So there was a lot of just dated information in there and the like that had to be updated. And through that process, it was also, determined that, the needs somewhat changed of the town. It clarified certain issues, and I'll go through that more in a moment. But also, at the same time when that was occurring, the township was close to its 10-year need to re-examine its master plan per the law, and that under the law, when you make revisions to your zoning ordinance, because they have to be, or they're designed to be, or they should be consistent with the municipal master plan, the master plan was prepared to look at issues facing the town, but also to specifically address this provision in it. And that is identified in section 5 of the municipal master plan. And while it's not my intent to read that entire provision, it's essentially recommended, and that master plan is adopted by this board, of course. It's specifically in the 2023 master plan recommended to the mayor and council to update and modernize its land development ordinance. And the ordinance itself, just to give a quick summary here, it did a lot of clarification of certain uses. Very few land uses in terms of the zones changed as part of this process. Self-storage, car washes were identified, permanent cosmetics and definitions, and EV charging are a few of the changes in terms of permitted land uses in certain sections. But the majority of the work that was done was updating parking regulations based on modern parking standards, clarification of how residential accessory uses are permissible, sizes of structures, setbacks, and the like. There was a substantial revisions to definitions in the land development ordinance. New ones were added, old ones were updated. A lot of changes to the administrative duties and requirements. There was an overhaul of sign regulations. That was both in updating the regulations, adding regulations for things like drive-through facilities that never existed, as well as specifically prohibiting certain types of signs and being clear about that. Fees that are charged by the township, those were changed. And then as part of the zoning map, there was a couple of districts that the map had to catch up with. You had to catch up with consolidating one district and also identifying your affordable housing districts from your housing element of the master plan, as well as identifying your redevelopment areas on the zoning map. So it's my opinion as the primary author of the reexamination report and being a part of this committee that these changes were essentially effectuating your master plan. And I'm not aware of any inconsistencies because you're effectuating your master plan as part of this process. So that's really my summary of how we got here, what the purpose is, and I'm really here to answer any questions that the board may have regarding this.
Thank you for that explanation. I do have a couple points I'd like to clarify or get clarified. Under section 195-10B, it's an application for rezoning. This seems like a new section. What is its purpose? Why is it needed after all these years?
19510, can you just, let me see this if I have that here.
10B.
Applications, procedures for filing rezoning.
Yes.
The purpose of that is if someone would like to request a zone change, there's a formal process of how that would be undertaken.
And we just didn't have it previously.
It didn't exist previously.
There's clear direction on
It's
it.
something that not all towns have, but I know Cranford and some other towns in the area have that process, and it creates a process for how that should be undertaken.
Under section 195-18, capital letter E, small letter F, it looks like it's a new section or new variance under variances. It's a height variance. It says, I guess, a variance for 10 feet or 10% of what? Is that in addition to what we have in these regulations now, or?
Well, height variances, I think it was just clarifying what the municipal land use law says. Anytime that, if it's a principal structure, if the height exceeds by 10 feet or 10%, so if the height requirement was 35 feet and you go to 38.6 feet, that would be considered a D variance. And that's something that the municipal land use law addresses outside of this ordinance. And this is just really modernizing the township's ordinance to be consistent with the municipal land use law, and which supersedes the township's ordinance. We have to follow that nonetheless.
Even though later on in the document, we do list various heights for the different residential buildings, zones we're in.
I think it was just, I think here, and I have to read the exact language, adding a subsection stating a height or principal, it's just clarifying when that height variance is required.
Under sections, actually 195, 136, and 195, 137, one was CB Plan Commercial District and Limited Industrial District. Both of them have been stricken and listed as reserved. Or do we not plan to have these sections, or we don't need the guidance anymore for them?
Let me catch up to you. 136,
136.
yes, I think it's just catching up with the map. And this is something that, you know, some of this is still fresh to me because I came along after some of these changes were made. But it's my understanding it's just that district was consolidated and the name changed.
It would be the same for 137 then. It's a limited industrial district.
But there, it's saying that it was amended to allow for self-storage facilities in the massage. Is that what you're referring to?
Well, no, there's a whole section that's been stricken, like the commercial
Okay.
district. It outlines the different limitations.
And that's to update, I think,
It was deleted, basically.
to consolidate it into the code, yes.
Okay. Anyone else on the board have questions? Counselor, is this something that's open up to the public, or?
A public hearing is not necessarily required, but my own recommendation is there's a member of the public here. If you want to open it up, that's acceptable.
I'd like a motion from the board to open this to the public. Thank you, Mike. Thank you, Joe. Anyone from the public wishing to come forward to offer comment regarding this document, please do so. Seeing no one come forward, I'd like a motion from the board to close this.
Motion.
Thank you, Joe, Mike. No further discussion. I'd like to see if we have a motion to accept the resolution. Thank you, Mike.
I'll second.
Okay, second. Any questions, comments on it?
Yeah, I'd just like to, Mr. Chairman, members of the board, I'd like to thank the committee that worked on this, and that is, again, Albert, Mark Dugan, our two attorneys, Jim Ulrich, our administrator, Paul, our township planner, and Kevin O'Connor, our former, O'Brien. I was O'Brien, okay. Kevin O'Brien, our former township planner, and our township engineer, Richard O'Connor. This group literally met for, I think it was over a year, correct? Over a year?
Yeah, it was over a year.
Over a year, and I mean for 4 or 5 hour meetings at a clip going through everything. And I think their work will speak for itself in cleaning a lot of things up and coming into compliance, making sure everything's complied with the master plan. So I do appreciate their efforts, and they worked very hard on it. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor. I'd like to have a roll call.
Mayor Bonaccorso?
Yes.
Mr. Ulrich?
Yes.
Mr. Manitti?
Yes.
Mr. Koch?
Yes.
Mr. Triola? Mr. Jacobson?
Yes.
Mr. Brocato?
Yes.
Mr. Oroncio?
Yes.
Okay, it Passed.
Okay, on to public session. I'd like to have motion from the board to open the meeting to the public. Thank you, Mike. Thank you, Carmen. If anyone from the public would like to come forward and discuss any matter with the planning board, please do so. Seeing no one come forward, I'd like to motion to close this session.
Motion.
Joe, thank you. Thank you, Mike. Any new business? Any old business? Our next meeting will be January 2nd, 2025, a reorganization meeting. I'd like a motion to adjourn the meeting.
Motion.
Oh, tie there. Mike, Joe, thank you. Meeting is adjourned.